Women of France, fellow compatriots. This evening I want to speak to you of the days that lie ahead of us, how we are going to learn from what we have lived through over the past few months in light of the crisis, and to outline what we'll do in the coming weeks and months ahead. As of tomorrow, we will be able to learn from what has just happened, from the current crisis. As of tomorrow, all throughout France, with the exception of Mayotte and Guyane, where the virus is still in circulation, the rest of the country, we will be able to say that we are currently in the green zone. This is where people will be able to go back to work, and we will see that cafes and restaurants will be able to open up. In particular, this is important for the Île-de-France region. As of tomorrow, people will be able to move between European countries. And as of the 1st of July, we will be able to travel outside of Europe, to those countries where the virus is under control. As of tomorrow, in metropolitan and overseas France, schools, all levels of schooling, will be able to take in, as of the 22nd of June, all students. This will be compulsory, and obviously, this will be in line with regular attendance rules. We have to avoid large gatherings, because obviously we understand that this is how the virus most easily spreads. And therefore, gatherings will be very much kept in check. That being said, the 28th of June will also see the local elections going ahead. For retirement homes, visits will be authorized. So, we will be able to once again see one another. We will be able to go back to work. But on top of that, we'll be able to go out into the entertainment sector and enjoy life once again, to be able to enjoy freedom together. We will be able to live what France embodies. Now, that is not to say that the virus has disappeared from our soil, that we will be able to let down our guard. For long times ahead, we will have to live with this virus. We will have to keep physical distance from people. 2020 summer, it won't be like summers in the past, and we will keep a close eye on how the virus will spread and change over the coming weeks and months to be able to respond accordingly. Fighting against this epidemic is a fight that has not come to an end. But we have won the first battle in this long war against the virus. And tonight, I want to share a thought for those people who have passed, for their families, for those people who were faced with great difficulties when they were unable to mourn those dead accordingly. Because when we started the lockdown, we didn't know what awaited us. And this is because we have been able to, well, we have had to think about how to open up the country once again. And to do so, the Parliament met. All of the local elected members of Parliament and local government, they met and have done their utmost to be able to open up the country once again. And we have come up with the only solution possible to place the health sector over the needs of the economy, and that is why we called on you all to stay at home. And I would like to take my hat off to you for having followed our recommendations. And I would like to thank all of the medical staff for everything they have done, because all of those people who were sick, who needed to have medical care, were able to get that medical care. I would like to thank all of those who continued to go to work despite the extreme levels of concern that they faced. But those people who were so essential to keeping food on the tables in France. On the 13th of April, I said that we would move out of the lockdown as of the 11th of May. And I know that some people advised against it. There was not necessarily consensus on the date. But together, with great methodology, we were able to prepare the post-lockdown period. And we have worked tirelessly to come up with a plan that took into account everyone's concerns, and we were able to ease the lockdown. And thanks to that, bit by bit, people have been able to go back to work. And we have done right by all of our employees in factories, people who work in the logistics divisions, to be able to get back to work. So this new step of this lockdown that we are seeing being easing the lockdown, we'll be able to see people getting back to work. The economy will be able to be kick-started again, and we will be able to ensure that we will protect the most vulnerable. Unfortunately, despite the deaths, fortunately, we have been able to see tens of thousands of people who have been saved, lives that were spared. We were able to improve all of the ICU units around France. We were able to work with our neighbouring European countries. We were able to reroute all of our heavy industry to be able to come up with new forms of solidarity to fight this crisis. And we have been able to see how resourceful our people are, because we have proven ourselves to be more resourceful than some other countries. We were more reactive, more united than elsewhere around the world. And I think we can be proud of that. We can be proud of what has happened and what we have done in our country. But also this crisis has shed light on a number of weaknesses. The fact that we have to source some of our basic materials from other countries. As just one example, we have a lot of red tape that we have to move through, but I think we can use this as a learning exercise and improve on that. In some instances, we have performed better, but other areas we have performed worse than our neighbouring countries. But we have been able to take stock of our strengths, but also our weaknesses, and we will be able to correct for those weaknesses. Our country has headed through a number of crises over the past few years. But, as we have been able to do in the past, we will be able to take back control of our lives and our destiny, in France, but also in Europe. For the 2 years ahead of us, I want them to be as useful for this country as possible. There is a decade that lies ahead of us. We have to set our course for those 10 years. We need to be able to ensure our independence so that we can live happy in our country and that we can live better. With the epidemic, the global economy has almost come to a standstill. So we need to rebuild an economy that will be strong, that will be sovereign, that will be inclusive, and one that will protect the environment. Ever since the crisis started, we have done everything in our power, whatever the cost. And this is what I said right in the beginning of March, that we would do everything that we could. We have covered partial unemployment. We came up with financial plans to support companies. We did everything. The government did everything that it could do to try and save jobs and protect as many people as possible. We came up with plans for the automotive industry, the aeronautical industry, for hotels, for tourism, to try and save them as much as possible. Nearly 500 billion euros were put into action for our economy, for employees, for employers, but also for the most vulnerable. This is something that has never been heard of in French history. And I want people to take full stock of what has happened. Because living in France is actually a chance. It is a great thing to see that we have our social system in place and to see how it works. And our current situation has been able to stand through the tough times of this crisis because we've been through exceptional times and we have put in place exceptional measures. Now, we will not increase taxes to try and cover the money that has been put in place to cover the crisis. And even though over the past 3 years we have actually been dropping taxes, we will not re-increase them once again. We want to come up with a sustainable, strong economic system so that we can be as self-sufficient as possible without having to depend on others. This is something that we have to do. Now, despite the fact that we will see companies going under, companies going bankrupt, people being laid off because of the crisis, we will do our utmost by working with companies in our country, working with independently employed people, with all of the intermediaries. We will work with everyone to rebuild our economy. We need to do our utmost to try and avoid any further people being laid off. And this is why I have been working with employee representative bodies and corporate leaders to come up with plans to try and protect as many employments as possible despite the drop in business. We have to create new jobs by investing in our national independence for technological, agricultural, and the digital sectors of our economy. For research, we can also focus more on that area to ensure the stability of our economy, to attract more people to work in those sectors. But for the future, we need to be environmentally minded so that we can protect the climate. We will have to have transport systems that pollute less. We will need to ensure energy efficiency of our buildings, thermal efficiency of our buildings as well. And we need to work with more green industries because we need to take stock of our situation. And one of those things that we need to take into account is the fact that we have one of the largest maritime presences in the world. But this reconstruction of our economy, rebuilding it, we need to do so with social questions in mind, and we need to do so as inclusively as possible. With the recent healthcare system overhaul negotiations, we will have to rethink the way we pay and compensate our medical staff. A more inclusive economy, which will be able to help us protect the poorest and the eldest amongst us. This economic kickstart will be kicked off predominantly by focusing more on training, on education, and future employment for the younger generations, because this is what we owe them. We have asked so much of them over these past few months, and them going back to school will also be a major difficulty for them, but we owe it to them. Rebuilding our economy will also take place by working with Europe. We have been working between France and Germany to come up with a joint agreement for an investment plan to kick off the continental economy. And this marks a turning point in our recent history, because we have borrowed together with the Chancellor of Germany. We have been able to work together so that we can say, we have decided, as opposed to I have decided. And this is work that we have been doing for the past 3 years, to be able to work together. And this marks, again, a new chapter in the European history, where Europe will be independent, where we will be able to stand proud of our European culture, what makes us unique. We'll be able to stand up against China, against the United States, against the global disorder that we are currently witnessing. Europe will come out stronger, more united, more sovereign. And this is what I will do on behalf of you, the French citizens, when I attend the upcoming Council, European Council. So this new environmentally friendly economy that will be as inclusive as possible will be the key to our future independence. And this is what we're going to work on over the coming summer, so that we will come out at the end of summer even stronger and ready for the future, to ensure that you, French citizens, can live better, so that we can stand united behind the French Republic. And that is what the second part of this new stage is going to be. I can see divisiveness rife in our country, and sometimes we have forgotten what our history has taught us. But we need to stand united behind this notion of Republican patriotism. But we are a united nation, where everyone, whatever their background may be, has their rightful place. Are there inequalities? Yes. But we need to fight against those inequalities. We need to ensure that everyone has access to further education, everyone has access to a job, that their skin color will not be taken into account as a point of discrimination. Because unfortunately, there is far too often cases of discrimination in our country. We need to stand up against racism, anti-Semitism, any other form of discrimination. We need to fight for equality. But unfortunately, this is a noble fight that is often, far too often, misused by some areas of our society. People have rewriting history to suit their own agendas. But it is full of hate. But I will say to you tonight, the French Republic will not erase any name or event of its history. It will not take down statues. It will not rewrite the history books. We need to stand together and look at all of our history. We mustn't forget anything, especially the French history in Africa. We need to be able to learn from the past to be able to build the future. We need to do so with a focus on truth. And we must not rethink the past and rewrite it. We need to focus on the past. But we cannot build our future if we stand in a country in shambles. And to ensure order, we need our law enforcement officers. But our law enforcement officers face risks day in, day out while they go about their job. And this is why they need us to stand behind them and support them and have the nation recognize their sacrifice. And I will need to work with you to rebuild this notion of powers and responsibilities in our country. This is the third major aspect of the future of our nation. So I believe that the way the French government is organized needs to change. Because not everything can be decided alone at Paris, as is often the case. Because in face of the crisis, what we have seen is that it's the citizens, companies, unions, grassroots organizations, local government who stood there to come up with a solution to face this crisis. So I think we need to show greater trust and faith in these organizations, give them more freedom to tap into their own creative energies. And this is why we need to give them more freedom, but also more responsibilities, something that we have not seen in the past. This is more freedom and responsibility for hospitals, for universities, for entrepreneurs, for mayors, and many other people who are part of our society. Fellow compatriots, this project that is based in independence, in rebuilding our nation, it will only be possible because of what we have done over the past 3 years for education, for the economy, for our fight against inequality that is rife in our economy. We were able to rebuild the country because we focus on Europe and because we want to ensure that we fulfill our role on the global stage. We have to overcome challenges, but that does not mean that we have to go back on what we have already done. We need to come up with a new path forward. And as I said in the past, we need to reinvent ourselves as individuals and as a whole. And as I have started to outline tonight, you will surely understand that I applied this notion of reinventing ourselves wholeheartedly on myself as well. We have the Environmental and Social Council and Economic Council who will meet, as well as the two chambers of the French Parliament who are going to meet, and we are going to consult them over the coming days to find ways of moving forward. And in July, I will speak to you again to be able to outline in clearer detail the future that awaits us and the specificities of what we're going to do. But that will only be the beginning. Today is only the beginning, because we are going to face historical challenges. But to be able to overcome them, we must not forget what makes us strong, our history, the youth of our nation, a desire to work, our commitment to justice, our ability to create, to be able to rethink the world, the fact that we care. We need to act together. We need to act together with all of the strengths that we have. And I will ensure, and we will ensure, that we can tap into the energy that is so vibrant in our nation. Long live the French Republic, long live France.